So I'd like to introduce Jan McVarish. Jan McVarish. One of the directors of the British Friends of Israel. I mentioned the British Friends of Israel earlier in the context of Alison, and she is going to interview some people and get some stories for you here. Thank you, Jan.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, everybody, for coming. So what Mark and I are acutely aware of is that it's almost impossible to convey and often even to grasp, I think, the enormity of what began on October the 7th. And I say began rather than happened, because I think it was the beginning of something rather than something that happened in just a few hours. Many of us in Britain, regardless of whether we had any prior connection with Israel, had a visceral sense, and visceral is the word that's coming up here, a visceral sense of horror at what we saw unfolding as we looked at our phones or turned on television or listened to the radio on the morning of October the 7th, 2023. And mixed with disbelief at what we were seeing and hearing was the feeling of being very effectively terrorized. And even for those of us very much at arm's length who've never been to Israel, like me, I'm going soon, but I haven't been before. With no apparent skin in the game, other than perhaps having Jewish friends who we love very much, Jewish friends who may or may not have Israeli connections. It was simply terrifying to witness even from afar. The rules of conflict seemed to have evaporated. I remember seeing footage and thinking, who or what are these people? Who are these men? Some in balaclavas and headbands, and some in flip-flops. I remember seeing a man in flip-flops taking a child's bicycle from a kibbutz. And it really was like the forces of evil had emerged from hell. And I don't normally use that kind of language. That really was the only language that I can use to describe what we saw. The stuff of deep, deep nightmares. And the whole world was turned upside down, not just for Israelis, but for all of us. So the aim of tonight's event is to strengthen our resolve and to inspire others to help put the world back on its feet, to put our moral universe back on its feet where it ought to be, the right way up. And as Mark said earlier, the most immediate action you can take is to tell the truth. The truth doesn't just reside in numbers and statistics. We've had 2 exhausting years of battling with those. It comes alive in human stories that we know at a deeper level to be true. So we're going to arm you tonight with more human stories from October the 7th that you can take out into your families, to your friends, into your workplaces, and to your communities. And so first of all, we have the very great privilege of watching a special video that's been sent to us by Eran Peretz. Eran is the father of Ido Peretz. Ido was murdered as he drove away from the Nova Music Festival, and he was driving alongside his friend that he'd known since kindergarten, 22-year-old Niv Tel-Zur. As you're listening to Eran, bear in mind that he is only one parent amongst the thousands of mothers and fathers of the people murdered in one morning on October the 7th, 2023. Please play Eran's video.
Thank you for having me. I was asked by Mel to share with you the story of my son, Ido Peretz. Ido is my youngest son. He is 22 and 8 months old. Ido was murdered on October 7th. And I'm here to share his story with you. I apologize for my English. It's not my first language, but I will do the best. Ido is my youngest son. He went to the Nova Festival on the 6th of October. In the morning of the 7th, we woke up because there was a siren and thousands of missiles were launched to Israel. I managed to talk with Ido 3 times. I knew where he was. We are living in Ramat Gan. It's about 80 kilometers from the Nova Festivals. I knew that he was in this party, and I knew his location, and I called him, and he told me that he's seeing what happened, and they are getting out of the area. Ido took his car, and from the forest of the festival he went to the main road, and he managed to drive about 20 minutes, 20 kilometers south. He was intended to go to a settlement named Miftachim to take a shelter there. During his drive, we talked a few times. He was not running away, he was not afraid, he didn't knew what happened around him. He didn't knew that there was an invasion of thousands of terrorists into the area of Israel. And after 20 minutes, when you go to the Miftachim junction, he was murdered in the middle of the junction in his car. Also his friend who sat beside him was murdered. They were friends from the kid garden. That's what happened to Ido on October 7th. We looked for him for 2 days. And after 2 days, we got a phone call from the police. They asked us to come and recognize Ido. We were at home and we went to recognize him. We felt that our world fell apart. Our life changed after October 7th. We are trying to keep a routine. We get up every morning crying, but we raise our head and we keep going. And we keep living, keep trying to hold our little family together, me and my wife and my older son, Ido's brother. What helps us during those days, months, and 2 years to keep go on is to make everything in his memorial, in memorial of Ido. We are doing what we can. Ido was a very modest person. And this sentence was, I'm good exactly as I am. It means everyone is good exactly as he is. That represent that he loved everyone. He had compassion for all people, especially for those people that the community don't hug them. He does saw them and he hugged them. I want you all to know that the October 7th for us is a disaster, for our family, for our country. 1,161 people were murdered that morning. Big catastrophe. And we are trying to live on our life, to make everything for the memorial of Ido. I thank you that you are hearing me, that you remember Ido, remember my boy, remember Ido. The reason that I'm talking to you, that I know that every person who hears me will not forget this boy, and every one of you take a little piece of Ido, and this is very important for me. Thank you, everybody.
And we do remember Ido, and you can tell now, you can tell your family and your friends about him if you didn't know about him already. We will remember that boy. Now, the reason we're able to hear about Ido directly from his father is that he and Ido's mother met a very special person when they were visiting Ido's car at the so-called car wall, which lots of you will know about, but some of you may not. It's a brutal commemoration to the attacks that day of a huge stack of cars, one of which is Ido's. And that's where Ido's parents met our next guest, Mel, who happened to be visiting the car graveyard, the car wall at that time. They started talking. She started talking to Ido's parents, and they have stayed in contact, and that's how we were able to contact him and ask him to be videoed for this event. So, Mel, can I welcome you up on stage? She's going to tell us about our next person. You all right? Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Do you want me to go into the next video? That's fine. Sorry, thank you for remembering Ido. I went to Tacoma. I was in Israel for a couple of weeks. I was doing a bit of SARL work with the IDF. That's the only way I could get into the IDF, so that was interesting. Anyway, next. Yes, sorry. I'm not used to speaking. Next, we will watch a video interview with a wonderful lady called Hila Dee. My son lives in Israel, and this is his kibbutz family. And she is the aunt of Ophir Engel, a 17-year-old boy kidnapped during the October 7th attack. Ophir was just a week shy of his 17th birthday. He was in the 12th grade. He's a quiet, humble and creative. He loved building and making things, and with his father and to his family, he wasn't just a nephew, he was like a son.
That morning, that fateful morning, Ophir was visiting his girlfriend Yuval at Kibbutz Be'eri. He'd been expected to stay home. His aunt Yael had been baking his favorite cake. Like many families in their close-knit community, Yael, her parents, her siblings, and their young children all lived near one another in the kibbutz. At 8 a.m., the sirens sounded. Yael and her family ran to their safe rooms, thinking at first it might be a false alarm. They checked in with all their family in the group chat, but as the morning wore on, the messages became alarming. Ophir wrote about explosions nearby, about fear, about other rooms burning. Then, just after midday, the messages stopped. Later, they learned that 3 armed men had broken into the safe room, taking Ophir, his girlfriend's father, Yossi Sharabi, the brother of Eli Sharabi, and another teenager, Amit Shani, from the kibbutz. A black car was waiting to take them away. From that moment on, there was silence. For days, Yael and her sisters called hospitals and officials, desperate for any news. She describes it as living inside a nightmare. I can't begin to comprehend the pain and uncertainty of that time. Finally, they learned that Ophir had been taken hostage in Gaza, along with Yossi Sharabi and Amit, only aged 16. Now we watch Yael recount the events that followed and what happened to Ophir during that time.
Can we play the next video, please? Thank you.
He was there the first day they took him. He thought he's going to be dead on the way to Gaza because he was taken between the last hostages. It was around 1:30 noontime. Yeah. Most of them were taken. I think 15 minutes later the army came to Be'eri. So it was really the last hostages, and then a lot of bombs of our army were there to stop the terrorists. And he said he didn't believe he's going to live after that. And then he was taken to an apartment in Gaza. And I asked him, "Did you believe what happening to you?" It was like, "I'm on my way to Gaza. It's unbelievable." And he told me he felt like in a movie that he told himself, "Where is the army to stop this nightmare and take me back home?" And they went there to a house full of terrorists. And the first thing they told him is to take all his earrings out. He has like 4 or 5 earrings. Yeah. He told him, "You have to take all the earrings out because you look like a gangster, and it can be very dangerous for you." And it was like, "I'm a gangster? Wow." You see his picture, he's such a cute boy. So we were laughing, and then they gave him long sleeves clothes because he has tattoos, and it's also gangster stuff. So, and the whole time he was not in the tunnels there. Good. He was all the time above ground. So it was really, but most of the days they sat in a small room in the dark. They were not allowed to talk at all because the terrorist knows that our army have devices that can record voices. So he told me that one day, he told it also on television, so now I can tell it. He went to the toilet and he saw a small window there. And he was getting close to the window and he said loudly, "My name is Ophir, I'm alive, I'm okay." He thought maybe someone. Yeah. And I think that someone heard it, but it's only my thoughts because we got one time in all these 54 days, we got a sign of life from him. Okay. It was very, the army tells to his parents, and we were not supposed to tell anyone.
Who was he actually with in that room? Was that was his girlfriend's father, or
In that room, he was all the time with Yossi Sharabi,
who is Ellie's brother, who was eventually
yeah. And he told us that after he told us about the food, it was very, very little food. Most of the days, maybe half a pita in the morning and half pita in the evening. And few times they brought him a lot of food Friday, and then they had to finish everything. And if not, it was very bad.
Wow.
And it's very hard to eat a lot after you didn't eat for.
Yeah, it's dangerous as well, yes.
And there was a lot of psychological terror there. They told them all the time that the country does not care for them. Everything is like usual. They haven't seen anything on news, so they didn't know anything. They just, a few days before they came back, Ophir told me they heard in the radio, Arabic radio, so some words, so they understand Hudna, it's a ceasefire, and few words, they understood something is happening. Another thing, Ophir told me that the first thing he wanted to know when he got to Israel is the condition of his girlfriend and her mother. He didn't know anything. And he asked, the first question he asked when he came to the Israeli car is if they know anything about it. And the doctor there, she knew, and she told him they're all in good condition and they're waiting for him. And it was like, you saw the film that he's meeting him while.
החזרה של אופיר מהשבי הייתה לא רק משאלה שהתגשמה, אלא גם רגע שבו התקווה שהסיוט הזה יכול להיגמר טוב התעצמה. בימים הראשונים בבית החולים יובל שמעה מאופיר על אבא שלה, שאיתו הוא שהה בכל תקופת השבי.
I haven't cried, honestly, it was just like...
I stood there, I stood behind Yuval.
Yeah.
And I was like...
You can't, the outpouring is just incredible. How is it being under those extreme conditions? How's things changed since he's come back? How is he now?
It's a very hard question, Mel. Because first of all, because it's very personal to him.
Of course.
And second of all, because he was taken in an age that people change. He was taken 17. He came back 18, and it didn't end yet. Until everyone is back, and especially Yossi, he was the last person that's seen Yossi alive, that talked to Yossi. I think there is a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, and he's still maybe not trying, but I can tell you that he went to a year of service in the Golan Heights, and he finished it now, and he's going to the army. So.
That's very brave.
His course of life, I think it says a lot of his condition. First of all, I want to say thank you to all the people all over that's coming and thinking about us and trying to do whatever they can to finish or to end this horrible situation. And I want to remind everyone that October 7 was not something Israel began. I want everyone to remember that we were attacked brutally, and I don't think people saw everything that happened there. Nira told me what she saw after they went out evening time when the army came to rescue them, and she described to me the bodies and the babies and what she saw around. I didn't want to hear it, but people has to hear it because they have to understand that we didn't start this war because we want it. I want them to know that most of the people in Israel does not want to kill women and children that are not involved. Most of the people in Israel want to finish this war and just live their lives with peace. It's very, very important to know. because I know that what you see all over the world is not that. And we are people of peace.
Thank you so much for talking to Yale for us, Mel. And I wanted to ask you, so people at the beginning and the end of that video, they'll have got a tiny glimpse of the kind of things you and a lot of other people were doing, a lot of people who are probably in this room, what you were doing to raise awareness from the very first moments, awareness of the plight of the hostages. So can you tell me what it was like to see hostage posters and ribbons repeatedly attacked, even now in London yesterday?
Well, as you know, there's many people in this room, not just me, that constantly put up posters, stickers, ribbons, and to see them cut down. Only yesterday we saw somebody violently cutting down yellow ribbons for the hostages, 48 as we know, that are still in Gaza. And I was out one night, for instance, putting up some stickers and yellow ribbons in East Finchley, and a couple of students came out and just chased after me and called me I confronted them, and they just called me a baby killer and a rapist. I think they just just want to reverse the narrative of what's it got to do with people in what's it got to do with the war. These are normal human beings. They're not just Jews. There are stuck in Gaza. There are people from many nationalities. I mean, they're human beings. You wouldn't rip down a dog's poster. They just they don't want to admit there are Jews suffering. They don't want to. I'm not a baby killer. I'm not a rapist, and that's what I get called all the time. Is reversing the narrative. They don't want to see that Jews are victims all the time. It's just. It's horrendous, and it's pure anti-Semitism. That's exactly what it is, pure anti-Semitism.
And it was always very noticeable that a lot of the people taking those down were very, very young.
A lot of young people. The two people that attacked me or attacked the situation that I was in, they were students coming out of a college around East Finchley. They were 18, 19, they don't understand anything, totally brainwashed. They thought this is it. This is something I've been told to do. I don't know if they've been paid to do it. A lot of people are paid to do these things. I just think they just believe this is the in thing to do. What is a yellow ribbon? I mean, I went to a street in around the back of East Finchley, and this Irish woman was going absolutely mental with me, hanging yellow ribbons in her street. And I explained to her what it was for, and she said, "Oh, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in hostages." So I said, "If it was St. Patrick's Day, would you like me to put some green ribbons up?" And she said, "Well, that's okay then." So it's madness. I mean, a yellow ribbon is for hostages. It's a national symbol for hostages, and because it's for Jews, they think it's all for Jews. It's not. It's for human beings that are stuck in the most awful situation in Gaza. They could be Thai people. I think they said it was about 52 different nationalities or people who've got joint passports. It's outrageous. It's pure anti-Semitism. That's long and short. That's what it is. And to scribble people's faces out or put Nazi symbols on top of hostages and just literally rip them down the second they're up is absolutely disgusting.
Yes.
I don't understand it.
It's very, very difficult to understand what that is. But I think our conclusion can only be that we've got our work cut out to overturn the moral inversion amongst those young people in particular.
Absolutely.
Listen, thank you so much, Mel. And I'm going to bring on some other parents now. So next we're going to hear from two more parents whose children were caught up in the terror of the Nova Festival. Thankfully, both of them escaped alive. And so can I invite Dr. Elliot Sorain and Hila Dee to join me on the stage? Hello. You're going to sit.
I'll sit here.
Hello, can I give you a kiss? And you've got a microphone, just... I'm going to start with Elliot, if you don't mind. So you are British-Israeli, and you're a consultant in orthopedics and trauma, now based in London. And before we hear about your son Ariel's experience of escaping the Nova Festival, I wondered if you could just give us a bit of some of the kind of longer context to October the 7th, because you have got a really extraordinary perspective on it. You know, you've spoken quite a lot in the past 2 years about how so much of your life has been spent dealing with the aftermath of Hamas terrorism in Israel. So from that perspective, you know, why is it you think that us Brits failed to see how interconnected the terrorism of Hamas is with the terrorism that we experience here in Europe?
Yes, firstly, it's a pleasure and an honour to be here. Such a fantastic audience. Thank you for coming. Yes, I've dealt with, I operated on the wounded from the second Intifada, from the major bombings, the Dolphinarium, young teenage girls dancing at a dance club in Tel Aviv. Mike's Place, the Mike's Place bombing, 2003, April the 30th. That was my birthday. Both of the terrorists of the Mike's Place bombing in Tel Aviv were British Islamists, radicalized on the internet, both British, one from London, one from Derby. I operated on countless wounded and injured from these bombings. And why do the British see it's not connected? I can tell you a little story. When I came to work in Derby in at the end of 2004, and I gave a lecture on bomb blast trauma, and I spoke about the Second Intifada, and the consultants at the time said, that's very interesting, but it's really got nothing to do with us in Britain. We're really not that interested. It's never going to happen here, and we're not very interested. And I said, okay, fair enough. And I said, oh, by the way, I'm getting married in a few months. And they go, oh, we're not coming to Israel. They were terrified. Anyway, then the 7/7 bombings happened in Britain. And suddenly everyone wanted to hear my lecture in UCH, in the Royal London Hospital, and the consultants from Derby, two of whom devout Christians. They said, well, you know, Intifada in Israel, Intifada in London, it's the same. And they came to my wedding. I took them round. I took them to Mary's Well, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I took them around. British people do have some lucid moments and do understand. However, listen, it's complicated. It's difficult to understand. British people fundamentally look at things as fair. It's two teams. They don't understand the concept of the ideology of what is Hamas? Hamas is the Muslim Brotherhood. This was founded in 1928 by Hassan al-Banna. It's a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. And whether it be Hamas or Daesh, ISIS, or the form of Islamism which has occupied the Islamist regime in Iran, occupied Iran, the Islamist regime in Iran, which is currently in control there. We're talking about a triad of, with respect to the Muslim Brotherhood, the Arab version of Arab supremacy, religious supremacy, and a global caliphate. And, you know, if you're in the West Bank in Israel, you see on the walls, it will say on the walls, أولاً الشعب السبت وبعدين الشعب الأحد. And that means first we'll kill the Saturday people and then we'll go for the Sunday people. And this is something we have seen everywhere. It repeats itself. You know, what's to say, just a Bible quote in the book of Ecclesiastes. You say, "Ein kol hadash b'tachat hashemesh." There's nothing new under the sun. It's the same story. We saw it in Afghanistan. There were Jews and there were Hindus and Sikhs and Zoroastrians and Christians and Buddhists. And now this ideology is an ideology of death. And I must say, it is extremely important to understand, this ideology predominantly kills Muslims. Politicians in this country are scared to call out Islamist terror groups. It's insane. It doesn't make sense. The Islamist regime in Iran kills more Iranians than anyone else. I know it's obvious, but people don't understand that, okay? And particularly in this country, they pander to terror groups. And in fact, if you call out a prescribed terror group in this country, you can be accused of a hate crime or a public order offense. It's insane. Okay, there is, as Winston Churchill said, you keep feeding the crocodile, you hope it'll kill you last, eat you last. Listen, I'm digressing here. Basically, British people, they've got some funny ideas, and they do not understand that the aspirations we have in Western society. Okay, a lot of us like sushi, we want to have a nice car, we want our children to have a good education, we want to go to a shopping mall. It's hard to understand that there are so many people that like death and like killing, and they do it because they want to do it. It's not that they have some hard-done-by grudge and grievance. The vast majority, even 100 years ago when the Muslim Brotherhood was formed, the vast majority were literate professionals. There were doctors, there were journalists. Also, this insane British idea when they talk about doctors and journalists somehow as being holy people. Listen, I'm a surgeon, okay? I'm fully aware that the head of Al-Qaeda, the deputy head, Ayman al-Zawahiri, a doctor, pediatrician, George Habash, a doctor, the head of the Popular Front for Liberation of Palestine, Hafiz Bashar al-Assad, ophthalmologist who studied here at Moorfields. And my friend Shlomi Ziv was held in captivity by a doctor and a journalist. So this nonsense, sorry, just doesn't make sense.
No, it's such a brilliant... It's such a brilliant point, and obviously it's in the papers at the moment, these particular doctors who are, well, we're waiting to see if they will eventually be disciplined, but it looks as though there's going to be a great application of pressure to the GMC in order to actually discipline these doctors. And that's something perhaps we can all get involved in somehow.
I don't have words to express the situation. The GMC does not have any threshold or any definition for Jew hatred. For the first time, I might add, yesterday, a doctor, he's already retired, but he's been suspended for Jew hatred. It's never happened in the history of the GMC, so maybe this is the first time. But we are seeing in this country an erosion of professions, but that's another subject.
I wanted to talk to you a bit more about the fact that you're very intimately connected to three very different outcomes from October the 7th. Your son Ariel's escape from the Nova Festival, your friend Shlomi Ziv, who you mentioned, was kidnapped and thankfully eventually rescued. And we should also say the tragic loss of your cousin Jake Marlowe. So can you speak to us about whichever of those that maybe you're most thinking of today, if that's not too difficult, or whatever you want to tell us?
I'm thinking of Jake today, but it's not my place to speak. Lisa and Michael will speak. All I can say is a wonderful man, a huge man in height, Jake, with a huge heart and a hysterical, his laugh would fill a room. That's not for me. And as for Shlomi, thank God he's out, and Shlomi can talk for himself, thank God. The story of my son, listen, I want to say one thing. The day of hell I had on October the 7th was one day. And my son is alive, my son is well. For one day, my son suffered, and I went through this. This was one day, less than a day, in fact, until I knew he was safe, you could say. How I felt that one day, the hostages and their family, they have been living in that fear for 2 years now, every second of every day. So, you know, we say in Hebrew, katonti. For me to say, it is difficult for me to... Listen, my son survived. My son, if you want to hear the story, it's the story is I woke up in London in Mill Hill. For some reason, I couldn't sleep. It was kind of weird. Went down very early in the morning, about 7 in the morning in Britain, and I turned on, I've got the Israeli TV, I turned on, I saw something was going on, and you know, there's a thing you do whenever you hear something. It said a terror attack in the south. I think it said like 11 people killed at the beginning, and you know, what you do is you ring up, it's an excuse basically to ring my son. So I ring him up and I press on the WhatsApp, and for some reason the video came on. You know, sometimes you ring someone, you don't really want to video them, and I did. And I see my son running in a field. And I said, what's going on? And he's going, I can't I can't talk. He kept putting the phone down, kept ringing. Eventually he didn't pick up. And I thought, that's very strange. Why is my son running in a field? My son lives in North Tel Aviv. Maybe he's just seemed a bit peculiar. And then things got worse and worse. Things came out, and I'm watching the news, and it's all blowing up. And eventually it transpired that he was there, and I was very, very worried, as you can imagine. And then it turned out, then he got in touch with me, he was safe. What had happened to my son was he was at the Nova Festival, and he was the designated driver, driving a Renault Clio, which I got for him. Beautiful little car. But we'll get to that. Then he was the designated driver, so he hadn't drunk or anything. And when the rockets landed and there were mortars, he said to his friends, let's get out of here. The music festival's going to be cancelled anyway. Let's get out. Let's get out before there's a traffic jam. Anyway, when they get to the car park, they all get in the car, and he sees a woman being shot in the head. And my son had the foresight to say to his friends, let's get out of the car and run. Because everyone who stayed in those cars was killed. My son's car was hit with an RPG, and he's probably part of this wall you were speaking about before, this car. As I said, a beautiful Renault Clio. But that's... my son ran. My son had the foresight to run. My son took his friends, and he ran and ran. And as he was running, people around him are dropping. And he said he saw a sea of people. He said it was like one of these zombie movies, a sea of people. He said there were terrorists with weapons, with Kalashnikovs, with M16s. He said there were just random people with flip-flops, just taking out hammers and knocking people on the head. He said it was a sea like... He said it was shocking. And he got out with his friends, and he's doing well now. Sorry, I've spoken enough.
Thank you, Elliot. And I do feel really, really honoured that both of you, well, all of our speakers have decided to be here tonight. We don't take that lightly. I really, really genuinely feel very honoured. So, Hila, your daughter Mayan was at the Nova Festival as well. How did she escape?
It was her first ever rave festival thing. And she asked about it a bit before, and they told her, oh, it's on the Gaza envelope. And she said, is it safe? And they said, yeah, all the parties are there. And it was, for her, it seemed like really bizarre. And she spoke to her, the person who was sharing her flat, and she said to him, maybe I should cancel. And he said, no, don't be silly. You go, you'll have a lot of fun. And they left. They got there like also in the middle of the night. I asked her, are you there already? She said, no, we're leaving around midnight or something. And they got there, they had their canters. They each had like around the tent, around thing. There were groups. And they separated, people separated, partied with their friends, with different friends. She also didn't drink. She said, I'm not going to drink. And when it started, when they arrived, she told her friends in the car, you know, we're so close to Gaza, maybe we should just map ourselves if anything happens, so we know which way to go so we don't go into Gaza. And they laughed at her, but they looked. And then when it started, the music stopped, and they told them to lie on the ground, and then they said, so that, you know, we're getting in the car and get out. So they started getting in the car, and one of them lost his wallet, so they were looking for the wallet, he was looking for the wallet, and the time that it took for him to find his wallet, I think they realized later they missed the first batch of terrorists, because they were like circulating them. And also, if I understood correctly, they weren't parked exactly where they were meant to park, so it was easier for them to exit. And lucky for her, the guy who drove did the gateway driver course in the army. They got in the car, and within 30 seconds, he got them into the main road. They overtook all the cars that were parked on the way. There was a white car that the girl who was in there spoke on the first night. And it took them a while to understand that a lot of people in the cars they overtook were actually shot. She sent me a very short video the other day of when they were there, and you hear the rockets, and they heard machine guns, but they didn't click at the time. Only after, when they replayed it, they realized there was machine guns. They're not even sure if they came from the kibbutzim or from there, but it was evident. And they drove and they went to Saad, to the Migunit. Saad is a religious kibbutz, and they didn't open the gates. But they were in the Migunit outside, and they heard the machine guns. They realized there were terrorists. They got back in the car and started driving off towards the Rot. As they left, the terrorists got into the Migunit. On the way to the Rot, they were stopped by Rav Shatzitz, the security guard of one of the kibbutzim, told them, turn around. Terrorists taken over the police station in Sderot, go the other way. So they turned around. They thought it's going to take us another 45 minutes. Should we, shouldn't we, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, they went the long way around. And when she messaged me, it was 6:45 here, so it was 8:45 for her. And the whole way, she was thinking, should I call Mom, tell her I'm sorry, or I love you? And she didn't want to worry me, so she didn't. And when she messaged me, she told me, I want you to see it before you see the news. I'm okay, but my friends aren't. And we're looking, and she spent the entire day when they got to one of the houses of their driver, and their parents made them all breakfast, and they were just messaging everybody all day, trying to find them, trying to find everyone. Somebody was shot in the leg, he was hiding, was waiting for the army to get him. A close friend of hers was murdered. There was a lot of things happening, and as she told me, I realized what a big thing it's going to be like. My childhood's nightmare is terrorists. We had like 3 terrorists infiltrating my town, waking me up at 5 o'clock in the morning when I was 8. I know what it's like. I know what the shotguns sound like. You hear it. They kidnapped a 4-year-old girl. They murdered her. They murdered her father on the shores of Nahariya. And I know what they're capable of. So this, for me, when I heard terrorists, and you think about 3 or 4, and it's scary, and you think thousands were in there. And only 3,800, by the way, were Nukhbas. The rest were civilians. And just imagining that they were literally, I think, survived with tweezers by the Almighty. It was just sheer luck.
Yes. Yes, and I think somebody said to me earlier today, your children are probably unusually well equipped to survive in many ways because so many people, maybe even at that festival, had been in the IDF. They probably were relatively fit. They knew how to help each other. All these stories of heroism are really extraordinary, and we like to think that we know people over here who might do this, but we really doubt that a lot of the time, that people would actually even just have the instinct anymore to help somebody and be effective in helping somebody, even if you've got the instinct. So thank God that you have the children of Israel that you have got, and thank you so much for telling us your stories.
Thank you.
So I'd now like to bring up, we're going to leave the stage, and then we're going to bring up somebody who's been incredibly important. But first, I'm going to thank Amanda Tragan, who has done the most astonishing job of helping prepare this evening. Clearly, lots of you know Amanda. She was the person or one of the main people in executing the exhibition that you've seen in the other room. But also, not only was she doing that at extremely short notice, she was also preparing all of these interviews that we've done tonight, finding people for us to talk to, and helping me to understand what I should be asking people. And she's just absolutely phenomenal. So can we have a big round of applause for Amanda?
Can I say something? Just if it's very quick, because while Emily was talking, she said about the Intifada, and at the beginning of the war, I looked it up, and Cambridge and Oxford dictionaries very undermine the explanation of what the Intifada means. Actually, only Collins dictionaries say what it really is.
Listen, if you want to understand the Middle East, you've got to speak Arabic. And the shocking thing is, people in the West, you think you know better than people in the Middle East. You don't, okay? There's a reason Islamist terror groups are banned in Morocco, in Tunisia, in the Emirates, in Jordan. There's a reason. There is a reason. And people in the West think, and they think they know better than Iranians about Iran. They think it is they think we're like it's dancing bears and it's some football match that they can talk. It's not. This is reality, okay? And they want to kill everyone in this room, okay? Islamist terror groups, every single one of us, okay? And I had the honor of serving in the IDF alongside Christians, Shia Muslims, Sunni Muslims, Druze, fighting shoulder to shoulder against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, okay? It is dangerous what this country does, and it is dangerous.
Thank you so much. I am going to move on. I'm going to bring Aviva on stage because she wants to say a few words.